Honourable Member for Dennery North.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, after perusing the order paper this morning, I had already made a decision not to speak on the motion that is currently before us, and I had reserved my energies to speak on a motion that more directly impacts the constituency of Dennery North. But given what has been said prior to me turning on my microphone, Madam Speaker, I feel obligated, not just from a personal standpoint, but on behalf of the people of Dennery North, to add my voice to the debate. Madam Speaker, we've been getting mixed signals ever since this sitting was convened. It was the member for Ancillary Canneries who cited the word incoherence. It is obvious that there was no speaking plan on the government side. You listen to the member for Castries Southeast, and again, Madam Speaker, his affinity for history came to the fore. Instead of speaking on the immediate realities that confront our country, Madam Speaker, his preoccupation was centered around Rochamel, Grindberg, and things passé. The member for Ancillary Canneries, Madam Speaker, who of late has become very amusing, and the only thing you can glean out of the presentations that he has made in this honorable house ever since becoming the parliamentary representative for Ancillary, Madam Speaker, is that he amuses, and he is fast becoming a subject of laughter, amusement, and somebody you have to question whether you should take seriously or not. Madam Speaker, he cited the minister's account in trying to provide justification for the resolution that is before us. And he did that with one intention, as has been the collective intention of the United Workers' Party, and that is to defame me, to derail my character, Madam Speaker, and to sully my name and my reputation. Madam Speaker, he gave the impression that there was an account belonging to the National Lotteries Authority in my name. A matter, I must say, Madam Speaker, that does not resonate in the public domain. St. Lucians are a lot more discerning today than they were 5 years ago, than they were 10 years ago. So that any attempt to play cheap politics and to try and derail my political efforts by trying to smear my name will not find favor with the electorate and the persons whom you're trying to impress. In his contribution to the debate on the appropriation bill, Madam Speaker, the member for Castries Southeast, the political hitman that he is for his organization, sought to represent the interest of an entity or an organization which resides in the domain of 3 ministers in the cluster. 3 ministers, Madam Speaker. But it was the member for Castries Southeast who was given the mandate, the objective and the task.
Honourable Member for Dennery North, may I recognize the mic of the Honourable Member for Castries Southeast. And Honourable Member, can you be so quick as to indicate?
Madam Speaker, I'm standing on a point of elucidation. I'm trying to understand political hitman. I am trying to understand.
Madam Speaker, I notice the member has cited a point of elucidation and not a point of order, and so I am not inclined to yield to him.
Point taken,
when he made his remarks at the time, Madam Speaker, an hour was not sufficient time to do the task that was given to him. He requested additional time. So I would be appreciated very much if the member allows me to respond appropriately. Madam Speaker, he said a lot of things in his presentation.
Madam Speaker, I would like
point of order.
I'd like to make reference to section 35(4) to cite that offensive language is being used by the member who is now making his presentation when he refers to another member of the House as a political hitman.
Honorable Member for Dennery North. Order, please. Order. The Honorable Member for Dennery North cited the Honorable Member for Castries Southeast as a political hitman for his organization. Those were his exact words. And it is offensive language. And you should withdraw, sir.
Madam Speaker, I withdraw the comment.
Much obliged.
Madam Speaker, the member during his presentation was in a position, Madam Speaker, where he was able to present manipulated figures, lies, untruths, Madam Speaker, with one objective in mind, and that was to damage my reputation. And what was baffling about it, Madam Speaker, the member was speaking on behalf of an agency which resides in a cluster where you have 3 ministers presiding over that cluster. He came and he cited Ida Inc., a company which the member, well, the Senator Joachim Henry has shares in, Madam Speaker. And because the National Lotteries Authority engaged Ida Inc. in a professional services contract, he attempted to give the impression that the National Lotteries Authority, and indirectly myself as minister, had engaged in untold corruption, and that what we had done was so offensive. But you know what is most interesting about that, Madam Speaker? The member was making the pronouncement at a time when he was being accused nationally on radio and on television of having paid or offered bribes to former cabinet colleagues on a particular contract which he was trying to secure either for himself or persons close to him. Madam Speaker, I will say like the member for Castries South, until such time the member for Castries Southeast can come publicly and deny that he attempted to bribe a former cabinet colleague, until such time he can come and deny that he attempted to bribe his own prime minister at the time, Madam Speaker, I will not waste time and respond to anything else he has said. He came, Ida Inc., and he was waving documents. Where did he get the documents from? Nobody knows. They had done an investigation into the National Lotteries Authority. That ought to have been the easiest of any investigation carried out by this government. You know why? Because when I assumed ministerial responsibility for the National Lotteries Authority, Madam Speaker, I was instructed by some very close associates of mine. They advised that the staff at the National Lotteries Authority office should be sent home. But you know what, Madam Speaker? My response was very straightforward. The staff at the National Lotteries Authority office had done nothing to me. We were talking about individuals who had bills to pay. We were talking about people, Madam Speaker, who had commitments to the banks. And I insisted that as long as I was going to be the minister responsible for youth development and sports, the staff at the National Lotteries Authority, whom I inherited from my predecessor minister, member for Grozile, they were going to keep their jobs. So that when you want to investigate today, you should get the full cooperation of the same persons whom you employed prior to me becoming minister. And I did not leave with any files or folders. The information is there. So that when he, Madam Speaker, cited that there were hundreds of checks, of course there were hundreds of checks. And I am not going to be apologetic for any money spent by the National Lotteries Authority. And it's a member from Beaufort North who said it. Investigate. Probe. When you get your findings, take them to the right channels and hold me before the courts. Today as we speak, Madam Speaker, the playing fields of St. Lucia are abandoned again. And young people have to patch up with money to buy a gallon of fuel at the gas station so that they can cut a little area on the playing field so they can break a sweat on an afternoon. That is happening today under your watch. And instead of you coming here and engage in constructive discussion about the future of our country, you've wasted a whole year and you come and you try to attack people's character. You try to throw people under the bus. And he also gave the impression, Madam Speaker, that one minister had 20 million or 15 million under his watch and that no permanent secretary or nobody was involved. Madam Speaker, let me read an example of a letter to you. Mr. Michael St. Catherine, Chairman, National Lotteries Authority. Dear Mr. St. Catherine, grateful for processing the payment for C.O. Williams Construction St. Lucia Limited. Please find attached invoice. C.O. Williams Construction Limited, $208,973.40. Your kind, usual cooperation is anticipated. Yours sincerely, Fortuna Belrose, Permanent Secretary. And I can produce scores of letters like this. Where, Madam Speaker, it cannot be said, Madam Speaker, that I acted unilaterally. I never did, Madam Speaker. And at no point, and it is he, the member for Castries South East, who said that nobody puts a gun to anybody's head. And that if the chairman of the National Lotteries Authority was not satisfied with what monies had to be expended on, Madam Speaker, he had a right, as had happened before, to reject whatever came before the board. I can only provide direction. I was never involved in the operations of the National Lotteries Authority. But the dishonest thing about it, Madam Speaker, when was the minister's account set up? And what was the purpose of that account being set up? And that is very easy to verify. All you have to do is to go to the commercial banks. And in the case of lotteries, two of them. The Scotia Bank and the Bank of St. Lucia. And it was set up during the reign of the member for Grosili. And Madam Speaker, why was the account set up? The United Workers Party.
Madam Speaker, on a point of order, the member is misleading the House here by suggesting that I set up any account. Under no circumstances. Okay. There was no minister's account set up during my reign.
Order.
No account referred to as the minister's account. No account known as the minister's account was set up during my reign.
Madam Speaker, this is very easy to verify. You go into the banks where the lottery's monies are being banked, and you look at the opening dates of the account. And I want you to come in this honorable house and show me one account that was set up at any bank when I was the Minister for Youth Development and Science. And I will tell you how to set up the account. And you know what is most disconcerting?
My mic is on. Honorable Member for January North, you have, in your words, indicated that the account called the minister's account, of which there has been much debate on, was not set up, or you are indicating that it was not set up during your tenure as the minister with responsibility for sports and therefore the National Lottery. And you have also indicated and stated that it was set up during the tenure, and that would, I would believe, during the period 2006 to 2011, somewhere during that time, during the tenure of the member of the current member for Grosili having held that portfolio, which is the portfolio you held, because he previously held it. Since you have indicated that the honorable member for Grosili has stood up on a point of order to say that it was not done during his tenure, Minister, you might as well, can I ask that you indicate to the Honorable House when was that account set up? Because you have indicated that it was not set up during your tenure and you came and found it. You found it.
Madam Speaker,
I would like some order in this house, please.
Yes, thank you, Madam Speaker. Thank you. Madam Speaker, The account was set up when the government of the United Workers' Party,
was in office,
by his own admission, was inundated with requests from young people, Madam Speaker, to attend university and to further their education. The amount allocated in the Ministry of the Public Service was grossly insufficient, which prompted the minister who had responsibility for the two ministries, separate ministries, the Ministry of the Public Service and Human Resource Development, and he was also the Minister for Social Transformation, Youth and Sports. And Madam Speaker, here's the letter that was sent to the chairman of the Lotteries Board. Now I can understand if you taking monies from lotteries to fund a program that is aligned with the Ministry of Youth Development and Sports, then yes, that is okay. But the National Lotteries Authority money, and to the best of my recollection, close to $2 million, Madam Speaker, was being asked to the chairman was being asked to transfer that money from the lotteries to finance the programs of the Ministry of the Public Service. And I will read the letter, Madam Speaker.
Madam Speaker, on a point of order. 35.5. The member for Dennery North is imputing improper motive and is misleading the House. I, as Minister of the Public Service, at no time asked the National Lotteries Board to allocate any finances for the purpose of awarding scholarships. Neither have I at any time indicated that we had a problem meeting scholarships and that I asked the board at the time to give scholarships to any young person. I've never said so, I've never done so. And I want the member for Dennery North, if he cannot produce evidence to substantiate what he just said, to withdraw the statement that he just made.
I agree.
Honorable Member for Dennery North, you have been citing document and waving a letter or a document in your hand. The Honorable Minister and Member for Grosley has asked, to which I will concur, that you make that document and proof of your allegation, make it a document of the House and show proof. And I ask that it be done now.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, permit me to read this letter into the record.
Let's just not read. Can we make copies?
Yes, Madam Speaker, we will make it the document of the House.
It has to be read.
And start at the date.
Mr. November 2nd, 2011. When was elections? November 2nd, 2011. Letterhead. Ministry of the Public Service and Human Resource Development. Communication on this subject should be addressed to the Honorable Minister. Graham Louisi Administrative Building, 2nd floor, Waterfront, Castries, St. Lucia, West Indies. November 2nd, 2011. Mr. Alison Maffrey, Chairman, St. Lucia National Lotteries Authority, Colony House, John Compton Highway, Castries. Dear Mr. Maffrey, request for financial assistance coming from the Ministry of the Public Service. The government of St. Lucia has received numerous requests for financial assistance from young persons seeking to further their education at local, regional, and international learning institutions. To date, we have assisted a significant number of students, but due to financial constraints, there are still persons whom we were unable to assist. In light of the above, I am seeking assistance from the National Lotteries Authority towards the education costs, plural, of students on the attached list. Thanking you in anticipation of your usual cooperation. Yours sincerely, Honorable Leonard Montut, Minister. Madam Speaker, this was the basis for the account being set up, Madam Speaker. And
Madam Speaker, again, I rise on a point of order. And Madam Speaker, I will clarify this matter because the Honourable Member is misleading the House.
That's correct.
I want to indicate that the account being referred to by several members in this Honourable House as the Minister's account, in fact, the account that was referred to by the board appointed by the member for Dennery North as the Minister's account, the same account that he referred to, that he had jurisdiction over and was able on occasions to disburse funds to members without going to the board. That account was in fact set up way back somewhere around 2009, 2010, because at the time, a national lottery, but not as a... Could you allow me to make my presentation in silence, please? Hold your horses. Because at the time, the national lottery was responsible for sponsoring the Windward Island schools team to the Windward Island Games. In that year, they were not able to meet the cost, the finances to sponsor the team. And as a result, a member of the board who represented the Ministry of Sports, Mr. Victor Reed, made the recommendation as a board member that they should set up a separate account to which $5,000 would be deposited for the purpose of securing the funding that is required to sponsor the Windward Island team. Not for a minister, as a minister's account, not for a minister to have jurisdiction over, but for the purpose of sponsoring the Windward Island team. Subsequently, Madam Speaker...
Can we stop the knocking while I get my head to understanding and listening to what the Honourable Member's explanation, please? Thank you.
Sorry. Subsequently, during the tenure of the member for Denry North, he wrote to the board asking that a certain quota of the proceeds of the national lottery be put into that account so that he could have jurisdiction over that money and decide how it would be spent. That is when it became and was referred to as the minister's account.
No trouble. Well, you admit to set it up.
Come on, guys.
You set it up. 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 You set it up.
Anyway, say more about this scholarship.
You have a list of scholars. Not today. Not today. You have a lot to explain to him.
Say more about the scholarship. That's what I'm saying.
Not today.
You see what I'm saying? That's what we have work to do. Oh, yeah, right. Yeah, right. And that's the other thing.
No, I'm not doing that. No, she has been
we should have stayed on the
I'm trying to get my head around it. That's the honest truth.
This seems unnecessary.
If I may, Honourable Member, Minister for Equity and Member for Grocery. At the time the account was set up sometime in 2009, you indicated. What was the account called? 2009.
Madam Speaker, it was an account opened by the National Lotteries Board for the purpose of putting an allocation of $5,000 monthly toward raising the money required to sponsor the Windward Island Schools team annually.
And you are saying the sole purpose of this account was to do that?
Subsequently, it was transformed to what is referred to as the minister's account on the strength of a letter written by the member for Denry North, who asked that a third of the proceeds of the national lottery be deposited in that account and that he would have jurisdiction and dictate how that money is spent.
Honourable Member for Denry North. Honourable Member for Denry North, you read the letter dated 2nd of November 2011. Yeah. Just for disclosure as well, I'm sure you had sight or wind of the attached list. Do you have it?
I don't have it with me today, Madam Speaker.
Okay, can we ask that the document, Saj? Can you take this letter and get 20 copies, please.
Yeah.
Ask Ms. Arthur down at the... Proceed, Honourable Member for Dennery North.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. It's amazing how convenient the word semantics can be used to justify the position of some people, Madam Speaker. But all of a sudden, it is no more semantics. But I'm very happy that the member for Grozile was able to tell the Honourable House that the account was established in 2009. Thank you very much. Madam Speaker, Madam Speaker, the member for Castries South East, during his presentation, he cited that, or he gave the impression that I had unilateral control over the disbursement of National Lotteries Authority. Thanks. Madam Speaker, when the permanent secretary in the Ministry of Youth Development and Sports, Madam Speaker, when the... Thank you, Madam Speaker. When the permanent secretary at the time in the Ministry of Youth Development and Sports, Madam Speaker, can write scores of letters seeking amounts ranging from as low as $2,000 to more than $250,000, Madam Speaker, to the National Lotteries Authority, asking for payments to be expedited. And you must understand the context in which that was happening. But I will never stoop to a level and make it seem that anybody had any ulterior motive as it relates to the expenditure of the National Lotteries Authority. Madam Speaker, I've said before and I'm going to say it again, and I will be very consistent. The Ministry of Youth Development and Sports suffered a massive budget cut, but luckily for us, we had that extra source called the National Lotteries Authority. So that when I sat with my PS, who happens to be a member of your cabinet, she knew exactly how much we had to play with to finance the capital projects in the Ministry of Youth Development and Sports. And that she could have picked up her pen, Madam Speaker, and write to the chairman of lotteries. But the thing about the National Lotteries Authority Act is that it does not recognize the permanent secretary. And projects can only be approved by either the board or the minister. So that when the PS, Madam Speaker, comes with the paving of the court at the VG Sports Complex, Madam Speaker, she can sit down with CEO Williams, agree to an amount, and then she brings the documentation onto my desk for approval, because the act gives me the authority. It's either the board, and the PS will not go and sit at the board meeting to get this approved, because the work of the ministry has to go on. And there are scores of letters, Madam Speaker, that can be produced to substantiate what I am saying. Madam Speaker, on social media, in this chamber, attack to go at my credibility. You've wasted an entire year. You've busted your travel budget. You've not been able to secure any investment. In your list of accomplishments after 1 year in office, very glaringly on your list, your slate, potholing of the Millennium Highway. But you think your energy is the best spent to come and attack my credibility and made it seem as if and you know what is shameful about it, Madam Speaker? There's one person who's the lead vocalist and he's able to drag people along with him. And even the Prime Minister buys into that. And in his rebuttal on the debate on the estimates, Madam Speaker, making reference to National Lotteries Authority to suggest that I did something. The member for Beaufort North has said it. If I did something wrong as Minister for National Lotteries Authority, I'm prepared to suffer the consequences. And I will go further to say, Madam Speaker, that when he came, and I must admit I was not prepared for this presentation, he spoke at length about the Marigo playing facility. I authorized or sanctioned the project at Marigo, where a changing room was built for the young people in the Roseau Valley, Madam Speaker, to be able to recreate, get toilet facilities, and to raise the profile of the sports programs in that community. I was vilified for doing that. But this Prime Minister, and if you go to Marigot, you will find that there's a changing room. You spent $800,000 on a tent. Where is your tent? But if you leave here today, there's a changing room down in Marigot. That is what lotteries money was used for. And you have to go, Madam Speaker, through you, go and check the projects of the national lotteries across the length and breadth of this country. Madam Speaker, when I inherited the Ministry of Youth Development and Sports, the playing fields of our country were abandoned. Abandoned, and I had the pictures to prove it. Philippe Maslin, Olibo, Larry Seuss, all these fields were abandoned. Why don't you focus your energy on programming in such a way that it will take our country from the malaise that it is in? And you must understand that you cannot do it alone. You need the opposition to work in tandem with you in order to achieve the objectives you would have set for this country. But you're preoccupied with character assassination. Come and defame people. Come and attack my credibility. Call people names. That is what you're good for. But I'll tell you this, Madam Speaker. I am not one who encourages the politics of controversy. I came into the Ministry of Sports and National Lotteries. Not for once did I go public and say that I saw anything at lotteries that may not have been in conformity with the Act, and come here and speak about it, or attempted to defame anybody where that is concerned. I was able to get along with the work of my department and my ministry. And Madam Speaker, I am proud of my record as a Minister for Youth Development and Sports. I am proud of my record as a Minister for Youth Development and Sports. And after 1 year, the sportsmen and women in this country are complaining. Playing fields are abandoned again. There is no program at the community level. What do you have to show for 1 year? You'd be better off if you come into this honorable house. You need to go through a period of introspection. The campaign is over. You've won. You are ministers. You have a responsibility to this country. Go ahead and work for the country. Don't come here and try to assassinate people's character. That is not what you were elected for. You've secured the victory. Behave like ministers. Behave like individuals who have to play a lead role in moving this country forward. Thank you, Madam Speaker.